Hello everybody and welcome to this amazing top 5 list of the best survivor perks of Dead by Daylight. In this list we'll be covering the top 5 perks that grant the highest benefits to the survivor and are highly recommended to work towards. This list should help you determine what perks you should strive to learn and help you focus your leveling properly through the nasty grind of blood points. We will be focusing only on the tier 3 versions of every perk and ignoring their tier 1 and 2 iterations. Remember that this list is my opinion based on well over 1,000 hours of experience, and I would recommend these perks to anyone using Survivor out in the fog. This list is based on the game in its current state of patch 1.9.3, so with that out of the way, let's begin. Number 5. Iron Will. Our first perk tonight is the perk that comes of great use for stealth players and others who like to use some swift tactics to juke killers around corners. This perk reduces the grunts and pain sounds produced from a survivor while injured by 100%, meaning you will not have any cries of pain that reveal your location while injured. This perk is taught by Jake at level 30 and is guaranteed to Jake by level 5. Though this perk can come in handy, I don't recommend jumping to this teachable first as it will not provide nearly as much of a benefit as the next 4 perks on this list. Additionally, Jake's other teachables are just kind of forgettable. If you have the spare time to grab this, it wouldn't be half bad if you're trying to play stealthy. Otherwise, I would save this for another time. Personally, Iron Will isn't a perk that I use too much, however, I cannot deny that it has some very potent uses. Tons of killers use audio cues as a form of tracking, and when majority of the time, survivors turn corners to cut away vision from the killer, and audio becomes the killer's go-to source of tracking. Especially when you're injured, the pain noises generated from a survivor not only give off the location but the direction you're running in. Originally, Quick and Quiet was my thought to take number 5, but then Iron Will just served a similar purpose, but also had no limit in comparison to the cooldown Quick and Quiet has. When running both perks together, you can make some interesting locker jukes and stay hidden from some of the strongest killers, but since Iron Will is always effective as long as you're injured, it seems to have more of a use since it doesn't have to go on cooldown and always keeps you quiet in your time of need. Number 4. We're gonna live forever. Out of the remaining perks for this list, We're Gonna Live Forever is the only perk that provides no actual passive benefit to the survivor other than blood point gain. Each time you rescue or take a hit to protect another survivor, you will gain a stack for We're Gonna Live Forever. Each stack provides a 25% blood point bonus to the total at the end of the game. Essentially, it will double your blood points at the maximum of 4 stacks if you get them all. To grab the teachable of this perk, simply get David King to level 30. He is also guaranteed the perk at level 5 for himself. This means that David King would actually be relatively effective to pick as your first starter survivor if you wish to reduce the grind on blood points to level other characters up faster and gain more teachable perks. The reason I put this perk on the list is because I had to look back at all the teachables, characters, and levels the game provides for players, even for killers. As a veteran player of Dead by Daylight, I don't need to gain additional blood points myself, but when looking into this as a new player, the grind can be devastatingly painful. Therefore, out of all the perks in this game, We're Gonna Live Forever places itself in 4th due to its usefulness in decreasing this grind to get all the perks you'll want to be an effective survivor, or even killer. And it's not even too difficult to gain stacks on this either. There are several methods to earn stacks that won't jeopardize your play. First, if you want to take a hit by the killer, all you have to do is take that hit while the survivor is being carried on the killer's shoulder. You'll gain 1 stack for that. Making a rescue off the hook also gives you another stack, and taking a hit near an injured survivor also provides you another stack. So for example, pulling a survivor off the hook and taking a hit for them, that's 2 stacks immediately. Even if you were to sacrifice yourself for the greater good at that point, you get an additional 50% blood points right off the bat. Finally, if you want extra stacks at the end of the game, you can just stand by injured survivors at the gate, or if people allow the killer to take a swing at somebody and they go to injured right at the exit gate, just be there, take the hit for them, and it counts as protection for you to get a nice stack safely and at the end of the game. Even if that is your only stack, that's an additional 25% to all those delicious blood points you got all game long. So what are you waiting for? Go show those killers you're gonna live forever. Or until you get camped for being overly altruistic. I'll leave that up to you. Number 3. Urban Evasion. Without a doubt the most powerful stealth perk in the game, Urban Evasion finds itself as a very popular and overly utilized tool. Urban Evasion increases crouch speed by 100%, effectively making your crouch movement the same as your walking movement speed. Gone are the days of standing, now we may squat to victory. You can find your way to this beautiful high tier perk through the killer Nia. At level 35 you'll obtain the teachable and can be guaranteed this perk on Nia at level 10. Not being caught by a killer can make the difference between making it out alive or gaining tons of blood points. Urban Evasion has become quite the powerful tool over the years since it received its buff. Being able to travel around at walking speed and half the height, you can complete a trial without ever being seen. If you're having troubles with a killer, such as being the first one caught, this perk might just be for you, as you will not be the one being face camped by the killer and ultimately able to gain yourself some delicious blood points. Combine this perk with Iron Will and you'll find yourself capable of escaping killers in plain sight. Urban Evasion fits in so many builds you'll find yourself some decent use from it. The only downside is that by leveling Nia you won't be able to be rewarded with other perks that are nearly as effective. Balanced Landing and Streetwise are alright, but you can possibly replace both of those with the next two powerful perks on this list. Number 2. Sprint Burst. The bane of a killer's existence, Sprint Burst speeds its way into the heart of almost every Survivor build ever conceived. Sprint Burst boosts Survivor's sprint speed to a whopping 150% for 3 seconds. This will cause exhaustion for 40 seconds and will be used anytime a Survivor is sprinting while not exhausted. You could pick this behemoth of a teachable up from Meg at level 35 and are guaranteed it on Meg at level 10. Sprint Burst has several combinations and serves as an amazing tool to separate the killer and Survivor. It has very powerful capabilities as it changes the game almost completely. Not only are you putting time between you and the killer, but you are effectively able to make additional loops through certain windows and extend the duration of chase on portions of certain maps. On top of that, you can use the perk to dodge an incoming attack since you'll be so fast the killer's swing can't keep up. The only drawback is that you can't exactly choose when to use it. Instead, you'll use it whenever you sprint and are not afflicted with exhaustion. You can recover from exhaustion even in the middle of the chase while sprinting, which will cause you to sprint burst once you've recovered, putting additional time between you and the killer. For this list, it's also important to note that Sprint Burst does not combine well with any other exhaustion perk except Adrenaline. Additionally, due to Sprint Burst's capabilities, it also knocks every other exhaustion perk off this top 5. Since exhaustion perks don't go well together, using the most effective one is possibly what rates this one so high. This beats out all the others for the most part and has the most consistent use. Lithe and Balanced Landing grant the same speed boost, but only when conditions are met, meaning that sometimes those conditions are not achievable and otherwise can't be used nearly as much as Sprint Burst. Dead Hard was the only other exhaustion perk that really stood a chance against Sprint Burst, but in comparison it still falls a bit short. Dead Hard can only be used while you're injured, and there are several killers that can cause you to skip this injured state, such as Hillbilly. And Hillbilly is used so often, it kind of find yourself not using Dead Hard simply because Sprint Burst can be used consistently, since you'll likely find yourself at the end of a chainsaw not able to even use Dead Hard unless you got off of a hook. Though Dead Hard itself is a very good perk, do not get me wrong, it just doesn't compare to the consistency of Sprint Burst. Personally, I do like Dead Hard far more than Sprint Burst, but I find that I play against Hillbilly so much that Sprint Burst has become the answer to giving me that second chance every 40 seconds instead of hoping that I'm not put to the ground immediately and have that moment to Dead Hard. Number 1. Self-Care. And oh my goodness, what a twist. Decisive Strike and Borrowed Time outplayed by the magnificent effects of Self-Care, granting the ability to heal oneself without an item or another's help. Self-Care takes its spot as the most powerful perk of survivors of Dead by Daylight, unlocking the ability to heal yourself at 50% of regular speed while also giving yourself 20% additional item efficiency, which is essentially better skill checks. Before we get into the nitty-gritty about why certain perks didn't make it onto this list, let's jump into how you get self-care. Claudette holds this teachable perk at level 45 and is guaranteed the perk for herself at level 15. This is the most recommended starter character for anyone playing, as self-care is a staple for almost every survivor and every build ever. Without question, granting the ability to heal yourself allows you to recover from every mistake for as long as you haven't been downed. Not having to rely on teammates assisting you allows for self-preservation at a greater rate. Though some would argue that healing yourself slows the game down and ultimately hurts your team, I find that it can also speed the game up and be what saves your team. One of the larger issues of not running self-care is that you have to rely on an item or find allies to heal you. If you choose to stick it out injured, your ability to maintain a long chase is reduced as you can be downed instantly with a single hit from anything. Additionally, the injured state removes a lot of your stealthing capability without the use of Iron Will, since you'll be making a lot of noise and pain. Now, other perks that contested this were Decisive Strike, and Decisive Strike is amazingly annoying as a second chance perk, but in comparison to Self-Care, it doesn't compare in the long run. Self-Care has endless uses while Decisive Strike is only one time. Also, you have to be the Obsession to get the best benefit of Decisive, where Self-Care is always a worthwhile perk. Not only that, Self-Care doesn't require you to hit a very difficult skill check, whereas if you miss Decisive Strike, you've essentially wasted your entire perk. Borrowed Time can't compete on this list anymore either due to its recent changes that has done a great job to balance it out. And when looking over all the perks, I can say that if I were to ever be stuck with any single perk, I'd want Self-Care in that build. It is possible to find a way to heal yourself with med kits, but when it comes down to that limited healing, I'd rather have Self-Care to just recover from any mistake that I have versus just one or two that I could get out of this medkit. The convenience of Self-Care really takes the weight off your shoulders when you don't have to worry about finding someone to heal you, having items, worrying about a Franklin's Demise that'll knock an item out of your hand, worrying that if you make too many mistakes on skill checks that you won't be able to fully heal yourself with that brown medic kit, whatever it is, Self-Care's got your back. Self-Care is the ultimate second chance perk as it consistently allows you to replenish your life endlessly, and that's why it makes its way to number 1 on our list. So what do you think? Do you agree with the list? What's your top 5 favorite Survivor perks? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you want to see other top 5 lists? Leave suggestions and upvote ones that you like and I'll be sure to get that next. Don't forget to join my community Discord server, and if you want to catch me during a live stream, follow me over on Twitch, links in the description down below. And don't forget our weekly Friday Let's Discuss Live, where you can bring your thoughts of the game in its current state and discuss it live with me. Like, share, subscribe, and as always, good game.